Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the CRKT Thero. Very interesting knife, and actually a very neat knife in a lot of ways, partly because of what it represents. But first off, before we go any further, full disclosure, this guy was sent to me directly by CRKT. I handled one of these guys, actually at Blade Show West, and I said, hey guys, send one of these my way. As always, I've given them my disclaimer. I told them I'm going to talk about the full good, the great, the bad, the ugly, might be a gem, might be junk. They still send it along, but we do have to assume that this is the very best quality controlled one of these guys ever, and I'm doing my best to basically not let the fact that this was sent my way affect the nature of my review. But there we go. Next thing, let's see here. Size comparison. There we go. That's how my reviews work every single time, and somehow I forgot. Here it is against Spyderco PM2. See that in terms of sharp and blade length, we're actually very similar to it. Here it is against Spyderco Delica. So in terms of handle size, we're actually not far from the Delica here. And then here it is against the Ontario Rat number 2. So there you go. Next thing, one thing that I know immediately people are writing in the comments and are very concerned about, and perhaps rightly so, is like, Nick, oh my God, that looks a lot like the Millet Torrid. Is this a clone? Is this a knockoff? No, actually, it is not. This is a knife that has been designed by TJ Schwarz. TJ is the same person who designed the Millet Torrent there. He is the designer, and he's now actually working with CRKT, and he's got a couple of models coming up here. But nonetheless, and he's done a couple before. But this is a production version, roughly, of the Torrent design. It's got a slightly different blade shape here, and obviously some of the finishings and such are different. It also happens to be about a quarter of the price, actually way less than that. The Torrid is substantially more expensive, like 7 times the price of this. Thank you, Seagull, for inputting your feelings in the process. But it is a production knife that is based on the Torrid design. Millet is happy, TJ is happy, everybody's happy. It just happens to be similar to that. I think that's actually a beautiful thing. So there you go. There's that. So let's go ahead and go into the good, the great, the bad, the ugly of this very interesting knife right here. So on the good side, to start with, I think it's a very good size. It's not particularly big, which I appreciate. In fact, it is, here, I'll grab my ruler real quick, and I'll grab my scale, because I'll need that too. Blade length-wise, we are coming in just over 3 inches. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but I think it's a nice size, and it carries very nicely. It's not too thick. It's a good size. I think it works absolutely there. And it's actually a very carryable knife as well. It's got a nice clip on it, and you've got a little bit sticking up out of there. It's a joy in the pocket. No problem there. Next thing, price on this guy, $45. Now, that's a pretty solid price right there. And honestly, if CRKT can be putting high design out without too many compromises at the $45 mark, you know what? That's good. That's a wonderful thing. I appreciate that very much. And this puts what is a $375 design, the original Torrent that is, into the hands of people who have a $50 budget. And that's something that I definitely encourage and I want to see more of. That's great. Next thing, flip a tab on this guy. It's actually pretty low profile. You can see here that not only is it mostly hidden by the natural curvature of the knife, but it is also relatively well-rounded, and it's well done, generally speaking. It is a beautiful flip a tab that has absolutely... This is kind of a good way to go with a flip a tab. It's relatively unrounded, it's relatively unpointy, etc., but it's completely effective. That's a beautiful thing. Next thing, the blade shape on this guy. Sort of a sheep's foot sort of thing. It's all belly, so, there are definitely parts of the blade that you're not going to be able to get to on a flat surface because of the flip a tab there, which, again, isn't too excessive, so that helps. But still, and it's got a very reasonable edge on it. I mean, it's not the absolute thinnest thing ever, but it's pretty decent for that, and it's 8CR 14 MOV. Not 13, but 14. That one extra, that one extra MO is important. But nonetheless, and so there's that. And then finally, this one has a very nice action to it. 100%, as you're hearing. Yeah, it's nice. That's a good action right there. I am very happy about that. It is good with the flip a tab, and you know what? It is also reasonable with the opening hole. I am not as good, by the way, with opening hole knives, but this is... Yeah, at least that's good. And so this has a very nice action. The detent on it is actually quite hard. So I appreciate that very much. And to me, all of that is the good. Is that it is this has a very nice action. It's got a nice blade shape. Low profile flip a tab, $45. It's very carryable and at a good size. A great side. To me, what's great about this guy is that they've done the design justice. When I kind of first saw a picture of this or something like that, or I think on like TJ's Instagram or something like that, my first thought was like, Oh God, they're gonna butcher the torrent. And I'm gonna be honest. I don't think that's I don't think that's an out of line sort of fear. In the past, a very common issue has been they take a great design and they drive it into the ground by trying to make it, $20 or something like that. But no, they really have done the design justice here. They've gone ahead and they've put in these beautiful little cutouts here, and behind the cutouts, they put in some very nice carbon fiber. I don't suspect that it might be a decal. It might be actual carbon fiber. I'm not really sure how to tell. At the end of the day, but you can see it does actually play with the light very effectively. It feels like carbon fiber does, and that's a great thing as well. The molding on it is actually quite good, such that you don't end up feeling like, oh, wow, this is a piece of crap plastic. The little red pivot ring here, this is not a millet torrent. Absolutely not. This is not the same quality of knife. However, you know what? It's a really good tribute. If you want to think about it that way, this is not the best song in the world. This is a tribute, but at the same time, it's a damn nice tribute. And for $45, you know what? They did a really nice job of this. They have created a knife that is absolutely not the torrent, but you know what? Is absolutely still a great knife and captures, I think, some of the magic of that original design in a way that is going to be affordable to more people. And I just freaking love that. So to me, what's great about this is not just that they have taken an existing design and adapted it, but they've done it actually remarkably well at a good price point. So that's what's great. On the bad side, first off, this is a little hard to say necessarily, but I'm actually hearing some reports just from viewers. I show it off on Instagram, and you always kind of get a good sense of how much variance there is just by people talking about it. And I've heard people talk about how the detent on theirs is too hard. Some people talk about the detent being too soft, gummy actions, etc. Look, that's kind of the nature of the beast, but unfortunately that is at this kind of price point sometimes. But you know what? Basically what I'll put it as is make sure that yours is as good as mine. If the action on yours isn't good, make them make it right and take it home. That kind of variance it's a fact, but it's not one you should have to live with. So make sure that you're getting one that has a really good action too. And if you don't, I'm sorry to hear that. Let us know down in the comments. Next thing, the sharpening choil on this guy, just a little tiny touch small. Maybe a millimeter more could have avoided a little bit of that smile. I'm absolutely nitpicking there, but it's a thing. Next thing, this guy is a little bit on the heavy side. I mean, a very little bit. We're just over 3 inches of blade here, and we are coming in at 3.14 ounces. That's not a super heavy knife, but it definitely has a feeling of density to it. Keep that in mind. Next thing, speaking of that length, this is just over 3 inches. The purpose of this extra little tiny bit of tip there is to get you thrown in jail. That's literally the only thing that little extra bit of blade will do. And so I really wish that they had been a little more careful there and come in just under the legal line rather than just over it. So there you go. Next thing, this is running on Teflon washers. This is sort of a, guys, come on, moment. I understand that it makes things a little bit easier from a manufacturing perspective. I'll see if I can shed a little light on the subject. You can see them in there lurking. The action on this guy turns out to be fine, but they can do better. They should do better. Phosphor bronze is a nice thing. Just freaking use it. And so that's bias 100%, but it's not something I'm in love with. I'd like to see real washes on these guys. A little bit more of that just in general. Then finally, actually, no, not quite finally, this is 8CR14 MOV steel. Now, look, I'm not going to necessarily let him off the hook. It's not an incredible steel, right? It's okay. It's a step up. Honestly, it's not the most budgety stuff. Like, CRKT has put out some knives and some steels that are frankly a little embarrassing. This is true. And of course, so much of this depends on heat treat. A great heat treat could make this steel perform really well or very poorly. And you know what? It seems to be okay. But the thing is, it is still very much in that budget steel sort of range. At this price point, at $45 for this design, I'm not going to drag him too hard, but it's not a terribly impressive steel, and so don't expect terribly impressive performance. Next thing, they have done a lot of billboarding on this. CRKT is a big fan of putting a lot of stuff on their blade. You got the big cricket logo here, Thero, Schwarz design, then this random number over here that no one understands. Maybe it's a model number. And then they branded the clip as well. Like, guys, I know you're proud, but you don't need to be that proud, right? And especially with something like this, all that's doing is telling people exactly what's in your pocket. I'm not a big fan of the clip billboarding, or frankly, the blade billboarding too. I kind of wish that CRKT just all around would rebrand very slightly, or at the very least tell the marketers to just like calm it down a little bit so they don't have something that's quite so obnoxious everywhere. And finally, on the bad side, and this is more of a personal preference thing, but I really do wish that they had an uncoated option here. I mean, CRKT is a company that carpet bombs the world with various SKUs of their knives. What I mean by that is they have a billion options already. I would really like to see one with an uncoated blade. You know, if they were to do a run of this with like blue and, you know, a nice silver blade, that would be really cool. And I think that would scratch the itch for a lot of folks in a way that a slightly high-speed, low-draggy version might not have. So I'd like to see there be other versions that are a little bit less Sith Lordy and a little bit more militarity, but you know, hey, whatever. More of a personal taste thing. So to me, that's the bad here, is I wish there was an uncoated option. The billboarding's got to calm it down a little bit. This is a solid budget steel. It is running on Teflon, which, guys, no. It is just over 3 inches, a little on the heavier side. The sharpening choil is just a touch small, and I'm hearing reports of action variants, so make sure that yours is as good as mine before you get yours, before you run out of your return window, so to speak. On the ugly front, there's nothing ugly here, so let's go to the final conclusion. Look, I gotta say, I am a fan of the Millet Torrent. I owned a Millet Torrent for a long time. Ended up selling it down the road because I, wasn't carrying it. But nonetheless, it is a very, very nice knife, and I'm a big fan of TJ Schwartz's work generally. He has done a lot of good stuff, and frankly, every damn thing I see that he's made, I tend to like. He is one of my very favorite designers, and so I am very impressed by the knife. And honestly, I was not ready to be impressed. I was prepared to be so disappointed. I was worried, frankly, that this was going to be a fire and brimstone review of like the great kid, god damn it, come on. But no, actually, they pulled it off very well with a nice size, a good price, a nice flipper tab, good action, and the very strong feeling like, although this is very different than the Torrent, they have still done it justice, and they've still included some great details. Of course, there were definitely some issues here. It's got some variance in the actions. It's got a little bit of weight, but it's a budget first steel. They are billboarding it every damn where, and I really wish there was an option to go with a non-coated blade for this. But honestly, my general feeling here is one of surprise. This is a knife that was surprisingly good. A $50 overseas-made version of a $375 knife. That's real easy to screw up, right? But here they have created something that is not going to challenge the Torrent. I don't think anybody's looking at the Millet Torrent and is going, oh, I don't know. No, absolutely not. But this is a damn good option for a high-design knife at a relatively low price point. And you know what? If you get one with an action like mine, it is a gem. Because it is a stellar design. It is a very good price, and it puts something that feels higher end, and certainly in terms of design and some details, into a range that I think it's available to a lot more folks. This is something that I think CRKT is very, very well poised to excel at in the budget market. So many of your budget knives right now, coming especially out of some of these newer Chinese micro brands, are very excellently made, but the designs are just kind of, at the very best, they're kind of boring. And so when you get a really good designer like TJ Schwartz dropping something budgety, people are going to take some notice, and it's going to give them an advantage. And so I really, really think this is a great knife, just as a tool itself, largely on the strength of a great design. But the thing that I like even more about this is that this is a gateway knife. What I mean by that is that there are going to be a lot of people out there who maybe love the Thero. They buy a Thero, and they go, wow, that's a good knife. And then they upgrade to the Torrent later on. And so this is a way to get a really good design into the hands of the $45 knife crowd, and then show them a very clear way up. Maybe they buy the Thero, they fall in freaking love with it, and they're thinking, you know what? Maybe I should try that Torrent. Maybe I'm going to like it. And maybe they do. And the next thing you know, they're checking out other knives by TJ. They're checking out other knives by other folks. And once they've decided, you know what? Maybe $375 isn't insane, then they're going to be in the hobby. This is how we're going to get people, I think, into the hobby out of the blister pack, so to speak. Because the knife is a great tool itself. That's for sure. I could give this knife to anybody in my life, and they could absolutely be happy with it. But it provides a very easy path into the higher end. It shows the benefit of good design over something that is very, very cheap and reasonably well made, but really poorly designed. And I think that's absolutely crucial, because I think at the end of the day, this is a knife that will pull people in. This is a knife that will pull people higher. And so this is CRKT not just making sales for them on this guy, but I think making future sales, because they're giving people a reason to fall down the rabbit hole. And they're turning people who are just in it for a tool into people who can appreciate things like design, into people who can appreciate things like a good action. They can appreciate a bunch of those kinds of things. And I think that they are in a position with their distribution network, etc., to pull a lot of people higher up in the price bracket. And I think that's a beautiful thing for for the hobby generally and for the knife market overall. So I'm very, very impressed with this knife as a knife itself, but I'm also really impressed with what I think it could do for the community and the market generally. So well done, TJ. This is another great design. I mean, technically, it's damn near the same great design I talked about last time, but I'm not all that against you. And well done, CRKT. Thank you for doing this guy justice and doing it in a way that I think is really, truly respectful to the source work. I love seeing these kinds of awesome designs available to the massives, and any price that can make somebody start sliding down that slippery slope, that's an absolutely beautiful thing, both in Thero and in practice. Okay, there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you. Have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.